right, today we say goodbye to Beowulf in the last section of the poem, the spoils and the farewell. So we're going to say goodbye to our hero, and where we left off in the story was Beowulf had just fought this fearsome dragon as an old man. So he was ruling Sweden, ruling in Geatland for 50 years. He is an old, tired man. The poem calls him a gray guardian. So he's old and well past his prime, but he is willing to fight because that's all he knows. A good hero, as he says, I'm a hero. I'm in this for glory. I'm in it for the reputation. I'm in it, to prove myself. And if there's a monster, I'm gonna fight him, no matter what. No matter who how old I am, what situation I'm in, there's a monster that needs killing, I'm the man for the job. So Beowulf marches against this dragon that is attacking his kingdom, and he is weak, he is old, and he is not able to keep up. And in the battle, the last battle that we read previously, he his shield gets melted and his sword gets splintered, and he is there basically on fire, getting bitten by this dragon. And he calls to his men for help, and his men go, and they dip on out of there. So he is left abandoned by all but one. And as Beowulf is, kind of facing off in his last moments against this dragon, the fire is swirling around him, and the dragon is coiling and uncoiling. It's a very beautiful description of the battle. One guy stays, and this one guy is Wiglaf, Beowulf's only loyal follower. So despite the fact that Beowulf has been freely giving out gold and treasure and land and weapons, to all of these, warriors and all of his men, his followers. He's been giving them all of this, stuff for years and years. Despite the fact that he's done that, when it comes down to his hour of need, they turn around and run away. And one guy stays. And we talked a little bit yesterday about how this one guy, Wiglaf, is kind of set up to be the new hero. So if we have Beowulf's star fading, we have Wiglaf's star on the rise here. And Wiglaf runs in, and together he and Beowulf are able to kill the dragon. And so in the last section of the poem that we're going to read today, Beowulf has some final wishes. So he's going to make some requests of Wiglaf, his one true loyal follower, and we're going to say goodbye. We're going to see essentially Beowulf's funeral. So we're going to see Beowulf's funeral. We'll see his men say goodbye to him, and we're going to think about the ending of this poem. The ending is kind of meta. There's a really cool twist to the ending of the story, which I'll point out to you when we finish. So in this section, what I want you to listen for in the farewell is what is Beowulf's last wishes. What does he ask Wiglaf to do for him? And then how do his men say goodbye? Beowulf spoke, mortally wounded. Despite the doom diminishing his light, he unlocked his word vault. His time was waning. His brain was all he had left, in it an ultimate ring gift to bequeath. Death drew close and knelt beside him. If I'd ever had a son, I'd be giving him my armor now, but I never fathered one, never gave my blood to an heir, and so this death is final. I am the last of me. I've been ruling here fearless for 50 winters. I was the man. No neighbor came to war. My name kept enemies at bay. No one would scare me. I lived in peace and released my lease on battle, knowing I had nothing to prove. I wasn't ambitious, never threw shade, never took shit, never spat curses when I felt wronged, but sat on the throne and weighed my people's woes and wishes. I have to say, I did okay. Now as I lie dying, doomed by dragon, no one can claim I was a bad king. God can't call me a murderer, for I slew none of my kin. My boy, get a move on and bring your lord's last request. I want to see what prize I won of this. Wiglaf, go under that stone, past where the dragon lies, wickedly wounded, her treasure targeted and taken. Climb into her hoard and count my gold. Hurry, I want to hold it. I want to know what I did, to look at my winnings. The king unlatched his heavy golden collar, handing it off to his young defender, giving him also his ornate helmet and war shirt, instructing him to wear them well. You're the end of the line, my boy. The last standing, living, has killed us all. We're dustbinned by destiny. My courageous clan of noblemen have gone to ghost, and now I serve at their command. Those were the warrior's last words. He had no more wisdom, no more secrets, before he consigned himself to the pyre, the final battle fire for a body brutally broken. Beowulf's soul stepped from his breast to see what it could see. The Geats began the pyre, howling over Beowulf, their best brother, hanging hoard helmets about it, shields and steel shirts as he'd insisted. They'd placed him in the center of all of his treasure, their lost love, and built a bonfire worthy of men's ends. Storm smoke shuddered from the blaze, thick and dark, and the flames keened louder than any man's weeping. The whipping winds momentarily stilled until Beowulf's heart helm broke. His bones blackened as his boys bellowed their grief. 12 thanes, battle-tested sons of worthy men, took themselves to horseback and coursed around the tomb, weeping, ringing the old songs from their tongues, dirge chanting, telling the legend of Beowulf, their king, his courage, his fury, his wars. They did all this grieving the way men do, but bro, no man knows, not me, not you, how to get to goodbye. His guys tried. They remembered the right words. Our king, lonely ring wielder, inheritor of everything. He was our man, but every man dies. Here he is now. Here our best boy lies. He rode hard. He stayed thirsty. He was the man. He was the man. So with our passing of Beowulf and with his funeral here, in this very short, last little bit of the poem, we get some powerful story techniques. First, we have a very symbolic passing of power. Like Beowulf literally takes off his helmet and his mail shirt. He takes these things off and hands them to Wiglaf. Okay, so like in Black Panther, you know, when you know the ring is passed to T'Challa. In hero stories, we have like the symbolic passing of power. And in Beowulf is dying. He sees Wiglaf as the future, as the next hero. You know, so it's just fitting that he gets Beowulf's stuff. You know, so he gets Beowulf's helmet, he gets Beowulf's shirt and his rings. He passes his stuff off to Wiglaf. So there is a symbolic passing of power. Beowulf is like, you're it now. You're the new hero. You're the new king. You know, you're it. You're the new Beowulf. And there's a physical passing of power too. Like these things made me who I am. You know, my armor, my helmet, you know, these were mine and these showed like my bravery. So he's passing a lot to this new, this new leader, Wiglaf, the new Beowulf. So we have this passage of power, and then the poem also ends with a super cool, like meta, like storytelling end. So we talked a little bit about how this poem is an oral tradition. Okay, so that means the poem was spoken, and it was spoken for like 300 years before it was written down. Or at least before we know that it was written down, because the oldest piece of the poem that we have is from 1000 AD. So, but it was definitely spoken from about 700 AD and on. We have evidence of that. So what makes it so cool, like if we are sitting here listening to this poem, okay, it's like 1200 years ago, we're all a bunch of like dirty Anglo-Saxons hanging out in this little hut, you know, or we're feasting, you know, and we have this storyteller, this Shope, come to us and say, let me tell you the story of Beowulf. So if we are hearing it And it is it's an oral story that we are listening to and that is being passed along. How cool is it that the story ends with storytelling? Beowulf's men are so heartbroken at the loss of their king, at the loss of their leader, that they feel like they have to go out and tell his story. So what's really neat about it is, it's almost like whoever's telling the story of Beowulf could be like, oh, well, I heard Beowulf from a guy who heard it from a guy who heard it from one of Beowulf's men. The story creeps its way into real life because we have, this ending that has Beowulf's men go off to tell the story of Beowulf. So, the story started within the end of the story, and, we're a part of it now. We're kind of drawn into the story. We're a part of the story because we're listening to it. And we heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy who probably heard it from one of Beowulf's men. So it's a really cool way to bring the listener in and to kind of pull us into the story of Beowulf, make it a little bit more real. We don't know, obviously the monsters aren't real, but, was the man real? Who knows? Was there some ultimate warrior that lived in the 7th century named Beowulf who did awesome things? Probably. But it makes the story even more real for us. The fact that it ends with Beowulf's men going off, riding their horses off into the horizon to go pass along the story of their great leader. So a cool ending, and a profound idea about the power of storytelling, that it matters so much. So that is it. That is the end of the story of Beowulf. Congratulations, you have read the oldest story in the English language. You have followed along to a poem that is 1,300 years old, and I hope that you got out of it, what the original listeners got out of it. Entertainment, excitement, drama, and just an engaging storytelling experience.